Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Learning Luminaries podcast. I'm your host, Wysteria Root. I'm a goddess embodiment mentor, and I help women shift out of anxiety, self criticism, and into their full embodied, fuck yes energy. And today I have a super special guest for you. I've been looking forward to this episode for months. She is a powerhouse podcaster, has a program of her own, one-on-one mentorships, things like that, and also offers really powerful services to the collective. Welcome to my show, Mama T.
Hello, thank you so much, Wysteria, for having me.
You're so welcome. So tell me a little bit about yourself, about your work, how you got into it, and what you do.
I think like all of us, we all have like some sort of journey, turning point that happened. So I kind of started my path. I would say what is the book? The Secret. So I saw The Secret, but like the movie version on Netflix, and that kind of really started me to shift my mindset around like actually having some sort of control in our life, like having a co-creation, a collaborative effort in living the life of our desires. And so with that, that's been about, I don't know, like 7, 8 years ago now at this point. And from there, it just went through just random opportunities came up from my Reiki master teacher being also really into the tarot. And so learning hand in hand energy healing and amplifying my intuitive gifts all at the same time was really amazing. Life coaching certifications coming up, all sorts of really cool opportunities showing up for me to learn more, dive more into who the fuck I actually am and like what gifts I have to provide to the world. And so it's been a really fun journey.
Oh, that's so good. If you could work with anybody, like who's your dream person? What do you love helping them with?
Ooh, oh, I love working with people who value living an extraordinary life. Like there's no hang up around, oh, like this is only meant for special people, like people that see themselves as special. Maybe they're not living the life that they desire right this second, but they know that they have the power within them and they're just looking for a little extra push, a little like insights, guidance, and some accountability on this journey. Those are the people that I love working with.
Oh, no wonder we vibe so well. That is like, I am that archetype.
Yes.
And it's a journey to get to that point, right? Like when you're in that process, so much comes up where you have to say like, okay, like I am special. I can do this. Like I even though I'm scared, like I'm gonna do it anyway. And it's just really powerful stuff. So I know that your podcast is called Coming Home, and I just wanted to kind of like learn more about why you call it that.
Oh yeah. So coming home with Mama T is really like it's a mixture of things. So one, Mama T has been like a nickname that I've had since high school. And it was kind of funny because I had a group of friends that I would hang out with and they would always come to me for advice and to share and kind of like it's like where when I think back of like, oh, you're a healer, like that was like the starting point with like people just like naturally coming to me and sharing what's going on, even if I've never had the experience myself, just to like, talk. And so I guess about a year or two ago, I was talking to somebody else, and then the nickname came back up. Like the nickname kind of disappeared after college or high school, and then it resurfaced, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm in the middle of a rebrand, and this is like the perfect timing. Like this is the like the vision of myself, the nurturing energy, the mom like supportive energy vibration versus like, coaching or whatever. Like yes, or sure, coach, mentor, those are words I can use, but like the mama energy is really what I'm here for. And so that came up, and then the home is really about coming to ourselves. Like our home is that space regardless of what your experience with your physical home has been, but like your home to me is supposed to be that space where you can truly come and feel so supported, feel loved, feel truly accepted as you authentically are. And I believe that home starts from within, right? So we have to like really focus in on coming home to ourselves. Like, who am I? What do I want to like bring into this world? What do I want to experience in this world? And really, it's that coming home, like understanding who I am, having that self awareness, and then taking that radical self responsibility to create the life of our desires. And then I'm just here along for the ride and the journey and co creation.
That is so juicy. I heard today while I was talking to a retreat facilitator I'm going to be working with in February. Drop the links in the comment. Anyway, but she told me today she her work is with mothers primarily. She's like a lactation specialist, and the retreat that
Okay.
we're organizing is all about divine feminine embodiment and power and empowerment and stuff like that. And she was talking about how like women as an archetype, whether or not you're bearing children, like you are birthing, right? Like you're birthing yourself, you're birthing your passion, you're birthing this life that you have inside of you. And so to be able to embrace that energy as a creator, as a powerful being, that is literally the portal into your deepest desires, and that it's not going to come to you from outside of you, but it's going to be something that like you magnetize, you become her. That was a really potent piece of advice when I got that I got when I started this whole journey. Was like I think it was like a YouTube reading or something,
Mhm.
and what she said was like how you're going to reach the goals that you're attaining, that you're like reaching for, is you're going to become them.
Yes.
And I just think that that's so powerful, and I love talking about this energy of, I'm really into talking about like the womb space and the divine feminine right now because I'm having such an awakening inside of myself with it. But I really believe that we have like magnets inside of our body, right? Like whether or not you like even have your uterus inside of you, like you possess this epic like energetic field that draws things in, right? Like, and that people tap into our energy. And so when we're able to create safety inside of our own body, inside of our own womb space, we magnetize those
Mhm.
opportunities that we want. I was thinking before we hopped on the call about what happened for me when I transitioned from identifying as a witch into identifying as a goddess. And when I was a witch, I was like, I was forcing certain outcomes that I thought were solutions. I thought, like, as a baby witch, I thought, and I've been doing this stuff since I was like born, you know? And so this has been like a
Right.
lifelong lesson that I've learned. But for a long time, I thought that magic was something that we could use to create a certain outcome
Mhm.
and to fix a certain problem. And what I've learned is that it might work that way, but you're probably not going to get what you want because you can only magnetize to you what you're able to receive. So the
Yeah.
shift for me was going from like pushing for a certain specific outcome and saying this is what it needs to look like, this is how it has to happen, this is what I want, this is who I want and when. Like I got all of those things, but I realized that it wasn't what I needed, but it was who I was being. And so
Mhm.
as I am stepping into this energy of really embodying the goddess, what that means to me is that I have this incredible capacity to become and then allow. Like it's a trust
Yes.
process. Instead of like saying, "Oh, universe, like I need it to look like this, and this." I'm just saying, "Okay, like I'm not in control, but I know what I'm putting into myself. I know what I'm putting out into the world." And so I can trust that that magic is going to unfold without me having to quantify it, without me having to measure it.
Ooh, yeah, I love, okay, two things. One, I love hearing the witch to goddess like transition because I've started utilizing the goddess word more because it feels different, right? Like the witch feels more like doing and actioning, and the goddess for me is like just like soft and flow, just like it's like a dance with life in our life field. And so I'm loving it. Like I have, I like to say like when I cook or like make food for myself, I'm doing like goddess breakfast, and it's like all these fruits and seeds, and it just nourishing my mind, my body, my spirit, and it feels good. And like what's going to happen with this day once I start with this amazing meal and cooking for myself and just doing for myself and feeling that like romantic vibe of
Mm.
just living. And it's really amazing just to watch things kind of just show up.
Totally. Those goddess breakfast posts that you do are so inspiring to me. I love them. Please keep
Thank
doing
you.
them.
Thank you, thank you.
I also think something that came to mind as we were talking about it is like the witch is almost like an activist, right?
Mhm.
Like spell work and spellcraft is so important and it is highly effective. And so it's not supposed to be like something that you use in your, like you can, like you infuse your life with magic, infuse your life with ritual. But if you're doing an actual craft, like an energy working, it's because there is like a divine calling for you to enact a certain aspect of reality, and like you're affecting the world. It's
Mhm.
not just like you're not just being, you're not in that flow state. Like it's this more I feel like the witch is working with things that are on a very like tangible level, right? Like you're working with your day-to-day life, you're working with like people and large group and what's happening to them. And that's why a lot of like people will do justice workings, or they'll do like cord cuttings and stuff like that, because it's like you're creating, and this is so deep. Like you're creating an outcome based off of a specific need that you can see inside of your community.
Mhm.
Wow. And that's really powerful and potent. And it also can sometimes be pretty dangerous. Like I learned myself, like I did this really powerful justice working, and I when I was doing it, I had the best of intentions all the way around, and the results of it were and are justice in a way, but had major consequences that I never even considered. And did those
Mhm.
people justice? Absolutely. Did Would that have happened anyway? Probably also absolutely. But like I learned in that moment that like divine justice will happen regardless of your action, and that calling for a specific result puts you inside of that karmic entanglement of what's going on.
Mhm.
And so
Ooh.
I think that's also sometimes that control, right? Like as especially like as like women and divine embodied people, in order to protect ourselves, we've had to exert control, right? Like
Yes.
the shadow power of the feminine is the ability to persuade and to like not like manipulate in like a dark way, but like to be incredibly convincing and to
Mhm.
like people have gone to war for women, you know? And so
Yes.
to have that power is in our right. And so to learn how to use it as a to learn to how to control ourselves instead of trying to create safety and protection by controlling the world around us, because we can't change anything. We can't like affect what other people are going to do. And so kind
Mhm.
of like meddling in that was something that I learned was just maybe not the most like it wasn't the path of my highest self. It was the path of myself that had a lot of shame and that had a lot of fear and that was
Mhm.
really trying to protect herself instead of like trusting that I was going to be provided for no matter what situation I was in, which is something that I've been grateful enough to learn how to cultivate that kind of mindset.
Yes, and it's a strong mindset to have, right? Like, and I think we all kind of go through where we're kind of going back and forth between like the balance of like fear and love, right? And it's like, okay, so like this action is going to be more like I need security, I need safety, I need this. Like don't feel safe in this moment, but like if we can do the same action and just switch the energy to from like a loving perspective of like I'm spreading more love, I'm doing that, and it's going to have maybe similar results, but it's going to feel different. The energy is different. So it creates a different experience. And so when we can tap back in every so often to be like, okay, like, am I doing this because I'm scared, or am I doing this because like this is something that I love to do? This is something that's bringing more love to our community. I'm giving love, so I'm going to feel more love, like this kind of mindset. So it's a very, very powerful self-awareness practice.
Totally. And cultivating that is also it's like such a somatic experience, because
Yeah.
then all of your doubt comes up, all of your fear, all of your anxiety. And in order to heal that, you have to like go into the body. You have to connect with the inner child. Sometimes you have to connect with like ancestral patterns that have been playing out to create safety in situations that literally weren't safe. And
Yeah.
so it's this little portal into true alchemization is when you embrace fear with curiosity to understand like, okay, what am I really scared of?
Mhm.
What would you say to people who are kind of on this part of their journey where they have a lot of their fears or anxiety surfacing, and they're kind of like trying to break down their shame, but they just are really overwhelmed because they feel like they have so much to work through that they don't know where to start?
Oh, well, I think first things first is as things show up, giving yourself like the grace to understand that, hey, like I'm learning about myself, I'm understanding, and not try to take it all at one time. Like it's not this is our life's journey, and we have so much time. Time is a human construct anyway. So like there is so much space for us to understand and learn and shift and shape for ourselves. And so we get to choose, who do we want to be in this moment? And we get to let go of any sort of shame, like, oh my gosh, I did this thing and it was horrible and I've hurt people. We've all done something that we're not proud of. We've all done something that might have made someone else feel less than, and it's okay, right? We can say, you know what? It's okay. It's a learning experience. I don't have to ever do that again. I know how it made me feel. I know how it made other people feel, and I can just take a deep breath and let it go and learn from that lesson and move forward and keep just like breathing through it. Like breath work is so powerful, breathing through it, taking that time, giving yourself like that mental space, meditation, whether it's like sitting in stillness and silence meditation or finding something that you love, like dance or gardening and like getting that movement. I find movement is super helpful, especially when we have bigger energies and emotions flowing through us to kind of like shake it off, right? If we've ever seen like a deer who's almost been like hit by a car, like running across the road, they like once they get to the other side they shake really heavily because they just went through a very traumatic experience, and then they go off and they start eating grass. And so we as humans can do that too. We can do that somatic movement to like shake away and get that fight or flight feeling with out of our body so we can have some more space for our minds to kind of really digest and process and work through. And it's also great to have people that you trust to talk to, right? And that are on a similar journey or on that have similar mindsets around this kind of work, and being able to articulate, okay, this is what I'm going through. Maybe I could use a little, like, sometimes we have those blind spots that we don't see for ourselves, and having them maybe point that out a little bit. And then you have some more information to work with to work through each emotion and feeling and vibration so that you can shift and really become more of the version of yourself that you desire to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I also just want to apologize for the beeping in the background. Anybody who's like auditorily sensitive, it stopped as soon as I said that. Thank you. Something that I saw recently, I forget the name of her channel, but there's this woman on YouTube who she's like, I love the work that she's doing. She is kind of from almost like a skeptical perspective, exploring super spiritual topics. So she'll go and like she had this like Pleiadian light activation done, and she's also travels. So she did this episode like interviewing somebody who had an ET interaction experience in South America, and she talked to them about like their experience that they had. And one of the recent episodes that she did was about somatic healing.
Mhm.
And she went to, I didn't watch the full episode, but I watched like the reaction to it that people had, where she like, I think went to the top of a mountain or something and was guided by somebody to do like shaking, that shaking practice to release all of those, that anger and that tension and whatever it is that we're holding inside of ourselves. And she just like shook it all out. And it was beautiful, right? It was something that people who are in the healing circles were like, oh yeah, you go, you're doing the thing, you know? But
Right.
it got, I think it got like 41 million views or something like that, like an insane amount of views. And it got so much hate. Like so
Oh.
many people were just like being so critical about the fact that she was doing this like shaking thing. And it was just so funny to me, A, because like when you're polarizing, it means that you're doing something right because you're like, you're disrupting people's regular thought processes. And so
Mhm.
we're very resistant to change. And so, like, it makes sense that, but it just fascinated me that they responded like that because it's like, this is a literal biological thing that people do to regulate their nervous system. But all of these people's like shame around being weird, around shaking,
Mhm.
around moving their body, around being seen was triggered and then like projected onto this woman who is doing powerful healing work. So I just like, I don't know her, but like shout out to you, girl, for doing the thing.
Yes. Oh my God. It's interesting how, because we build these ideas and concepts of like what is right, what is normal, what is whatever. But like we're all individual beings. We're all, spirits having a human experience and divine beings having a human experience. And yet we've put ourselves in these boxes that feel like, oh, well, if you do this, then you're this. And if you do that, you're that. Like just be. I feel like that is like my number, like just be like what feels good to you, what feels extraordinary to you. Have fun. If shaking is making you feel good, then that's okay. And you don't even need a scientific like backing for it. And that's something that I've noticed, and especially in my own work of like feeling shame around doing the weird thing, if you will. It was like feeling like I needed to have some sort of backing up of anything that I talk about. If I talked about manifestation, if I talked about, anything that would be considered witchy, woo woo, different from the way I grew up, then I would have to have like some sort of like scientific explanation as to why this works and whatever. And I would have to try to like prove it. And we don't have to prove anything, right? It's like it works because it works, whether it's a placebo effect for me or not, it doesn't matter. If it's working for me, then it's working for me, and allow it to be. And it's okay to express yourself that way as well and be like, hey, well, you know what? If it's not for you, that you are the author of your own story, and that's okay. My story is going to be a little bit different than yours, and that's also okay.
Yes, that is such a good key that you just touched on there. And I wonder what you would say to somebody who really internalizes other people's opinions. Like, how would you help them release that need to validate by an external source?
Oh yes. Because as a as a reformed people pleaser, as a reform needing like the validation from everybody else, for me, like my practice has always been like just going back to like, who the fuck do I think I am? Like, who do I, not in a like, oh, who do you think you are kind of way, but like, who do I want to be? Like, who am I? And redefining for myself, like that, bringing it back to that self awareness of like, okay, this might have triggered me, but you know what? Wait, hold up. I know who I am. I know what my truth is. And I am going to have the conviction for my own personal truth. And I don't need to argue with the other person to get like, have them validate me because I can validate myself. And it's taken practice to learn to validate myself. But I also notice that the more that I know who I am, the more I validate who I am, the more I have conviction for my beliefs and what matters to me, the more we magnetize people with the similar belief structures, similar thoughts and ideas. And I don't necessarily have to have that fight all the time. Like I don't have to, I'm not magnetizing that fight because I don't want that fight, right? Like I'm not like leaning into like, oh my gosh, if I say this on social media, I'm going to get hit with like a lot of hate. No, I'm just like, this is my truth and this is fun and this is, I'm sharing it with love. And you know what? If someone does show up with hate, guess what? It just gives me more comments because 9 times out of 10, a bunch of people will hit the comments back and be like, how dare you say that to her? Like anytime I'm like, I'm a thicker lady and I put like, I wear a bikini on social media every once in a while, somebody hits my TikTok and that's probably the one that gets the most views because everyone's yelling at the person being mean.
That's beautiful. Oh, I I really resonate with what you said. Something that I've been studying neurolinguistic programming because it's so juicy. It's basically, for people who have never heard of it, it's basically like a conversation style technique that helps you shift out of stuck patterns and belief systems. So it kind of opens up little doorways into new opportunities where people had previously felt really fixed. And so one of the things that I learned when I was studying that is to, instead of harshly disagreeing with somebody, right? Somebody says something that you totally are like, absolutely not, that's not my truth. Being able to say, oh, that's interesting. I see that from a different perspective. Like, how did you get to that conclusion? Because
Mhm.
being in our authentic truths doesn't mean that we're not taking on like like the insight, the information from our communities, right? Like if somebody says that they disagree with what you're doing for whatever reason, like maybe it's because they're able to see something that you haven't considered. And so being able to know that, like, at the end of the day, like, this is my opinion, this is my feeling, that and that is enough. Like, I will be good and validated in that experience. And then when I'm in conversation, if there is a moment that comes up that's a disagreement, instead of being like, oh well, no, then I'm gonna be like, oh well, that's really interesting, why do you see it like that? Can
Mhm.
I tell you how I see it? And then usually we're able to come to this point where it's like, oh, we're agreeing, but just from different angles.
Yes. And I love the curiosity in there, right? And I literally just finished like a program that talked about charisma. And it talks, one of the biggest points was like being curious about the world around you, being curious about yourself, but being curious about other people. And that helps with boosting our magnetism. When we go into this like fight state, then that's like, pushing, we're really like just rejecting each other, right? And if we come from a mindset of like, we're all oneness, then like you're inevitably rejecting yourself if you're trying to push somebody else away. But if we're curious, we open ourselves up to learn more about, the collective and our one being, our one energy, and we can come closer and closer together and totally shift this world.
Totally. Paradigm shifting. I love that.
Yes.
That is what we are all about, for sure. I'm also interested in, oh, I just had it and then I was so invested that I lost the thought.
No worries.
Active
Oh.
listening, curiosity. Oh, I was wondering, like, on the other side of insecurity, what does that feel like? Right? Like, you're a recovered people pleaser, me too, And I remember that there was a point in my journey where I had kind of like, I've been doing some really deep shadow work, so this was pretty recently, where I realized, like, I don't even know who I would be without all this anxiety. I don't
Hmm.
even know what it would feel like to live. And now I feel like I have a pretty clear picture of what it feels like, and I'm living that way because I like my mind is anxious, but my body is not. And so it's like getting back into my body and getting back into this place of trust and peace has really opened up a lot of opportunities. And I'm hoping that you can speak to why it's so important to do this kind of like validate, like self validation work, because of the results that you get after that, like discomfort of confronting your own fears.
Yes. So I will say it's definitely a spectrum. Like there's no, like for me, I have not reached the pinnacle. There are definitely moments where I still feel insecure, anxious, all of that
Yeah.
stuff. But on the other side of doing this work, I pull myself back a lot quicker. And I think that's really important. It's just that self-awareness. So, when we're in that, constantly needing the validation, constantly feeling insecure, constantly like we're just living our life in this state of anxiety and insecurity, and we're not even aware of it, right? And so it switches from that unconscious behavior to a conscious behavior, and then we catch ourselves doing it, and then we can correct ourselves in that moment. And then as we start correcting ourselves, those insecure and anxious moments start to like happen less and less and less and less. Like I literally just like posted an episode where I like was in a car with like my friends and we were going somewhere and I was feeling anxious and I noticed it immediately in my body and I was like, what? And I like go into like further depth in the conversation, but I was able to shift it in that moment, right? Like I was just like, what are you doing? And then like and shift it. And so we're able to choose, how do we want to feel, choose, and like talk to ourselves. I literally had it happen actually like 2 days ago. I was somewhere again with like a bunch of people and I noticed I was feeling like off. I was like, I'm not happy right now. Like what's going on, Tiara? Like what are you doing? What are you talking to yourself about? How are you thinking right now? And noticing that like, okay, well, these thoughts don't make me feel good. Like why would we think that way? Why are we, and you get that opportunity to be curious with yourself and realize that maybe you're like, maybe there's something there and it's not necessarily going to like immediately go away, but once we like have that awareness, then we're like, okay, cool. Like I know how to work with this now. I know what to move. I know what to shift. I know what I can like go home and meditate on, or, do a releasing ritual if that's something that you like to do, whatever it is that like helps you kind of like move through what might be underlying. Cause sometimes it's the situation might be the trigger, but there's something deeper within that we can need to maybe take a little bit extra time with. And so then we can unroot that and toss it out. So it doesn't have to like get all the roots out. Like if you think of it as a garden and you want to pull something out, like if you just clip it, it can have the potential to grow. But like if you dig those roots out, then it no longer flourishes and we're no longer watering it and we're no longer, growing it anymore. So then we have that opportunity to just like fully remove that portion of the anxiety, insecurity, and so forth.
Because it's kind of like it's like a consistent process, right? Like you consistently allow yourself to shift without shame and without judgment of being like, oh my God, why are you still feeling this way? Instead, to
Right.
just like, okay, this is coming back up. There is like a very loud buzzing animal next to me, and I can't see it. So it's just like so nerve wracking because
Oh
it's
no.
buzzing with like some serious bass line like in
I
its
love
wings.
it.
Know that it's big.
I can't hear it, but like, it's bringing the beats.
Hope it doesn't sting me. And if it does, we'll be fine. But
Yeah.
anyway, I keep looking over here because there's like an animal making its presence known.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So it's not anxious. It's making its presence now.
Exactly. Exactly. It's taking up space, just like the bugs in the garden.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is so potent and powerful what you just shared. I really, really resonate with that. And I think that there's so much to be said about what you cultivate,
Mhm.
right? Like what you cultivate grows. And I've talked about this a couple of times on some of my recent episodes, but it was just been such a big breakthrough for me. I've had a kidney infection for a while now, like maybe since December.
Mm.
And it's super painful. And I didn't know what was wrong until I went to the doctor yesterday and I finally figured it out. And I'm on antibiotics and all the good modern things. But I also realized like that the dis-ease that I've been feeling inside of my body is a physical manifestation of my repetitive negative thought patterns
Mm-hmm.
and my own fear, right? Like especially kidneys hold on to fear specifically. They hold on to a lot of like this need for responsibility and like rejection, this idea of shadow boxing, which is kind of like where like you have just a hard time like accepting other people as they are because you get like really combative because you're so used to having it's like I read it in a book and it said that it was connected to systemic primal fear. Like
Oh.
so when you come from a place of a deeply traumatizing experience, whether that's like a family thing or for me, like I've been living on the road for the last 3 years, which has been beautiful, but like I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. That shit is terrifying, you know? Truck stops alone across the country in tiny
Mm.
towns. Are you kidding me? That is so scary. And it's so scary. And so like I've had to learn how to regulate my nervous system and I've had to learn how to trust my body and how to like release and let myself know that I'm okay while still being vigilant. And so it's been this big learning curve for me of like shifting out of that place of fear and
Mm-hmm.
stepping that embodiment of trust and of regulation and of listening to like what are the signs that my body's telling me, and is this like a hyper awareness or is this constructive? Because if I'm cultivating all the time like oh like I need to be super worried about like every one of these truckers that I see, otherwise like I'm not going to be safe, like I don't want to go to national parks or whatever because I don't want to interact with other people and all this stuff, like there's a healthy level of fear in there. And then there's also like an excessive ability to hide yourself from the world and kind of to magnetize and manifest into your life those situations that you're scared of because it's what you're
Right.
focusing on. And so luckily I've never had well, I've only had one scary experience, which I'm really grateful for, but it was this really powerful insight into like what am I paying the most attention to? What am I spending the most time with? Like am I spending time thinking about like how I want to heal from these certain things, or am I spending my time thinking about the thing that I'm healing from? Right? Am I thinking about who I'm becoming? Am I focusing on what I'm doing and the energy that I'm putting into it? Or am I running away from what I don't want to be anymore? And making that awareness and then saying, "Oh, well, by focusing on what I don't want to be, I'm still being her."
Right.
Like
Right.
I'm still embodying all of the things that she doesn't want. And so it was like I had to let go of these like programs that I had running over and over and over again about my own insecurities, my own family story, this and that and the other, in order to shift fully into this place where I'm like taking things where I'm able to be way more present, I'm able to be way kinder, I'm able to be way more understanding and compassionate with other people and what they're going through because I'm not like in my free time in my own mind focusing on all of the things I need to mitigate. I'm able
Right.
to be present and at peace.
Yes, yes, yes. It's like I'm like thinking about very similar situations where it's just like when I fall into this like state of fear and I fall out of being the version of self that I am cultivating for myself. And then it's always that thought of like, okay, well, what's going on here? Like why are we in this space? Why are we feeling some type of way? What is triggering for you? And what is making you, it's usually insecurity, right? Like it's making you feel like rejected. Why are you rejected? You're here, you're having like you were invited to the party, then what's coming up here, what's going on? And allowing the self to just kind of let it go, like, okay, like I don't need this anymore, it's not serving me right now, and
Yes.
moving forward. Yeah.
I feel like also a lot of that has to do with the pressure to perform,
Mm.
especially just like divine feminine embodiments, right? Like there's so much put on our mannerisms and on our physicality and on our style and on like our politeness or our not politeness or however the fuck, you know? And so like I would be so scared to be myself that I would uninvite myself from the party for the
Yeah.
fear of having to be myself. And so I had this huge breakthrough where I was like, "Oh my god, like there is not a version of me that I have to step into. There isn't a version of me that I need to become. I just need to let who I am at my core, who my body knows me to be, who my heart just is, do her thing without holding her back and without like criticizing her based off of all of these other imaginary judgments that other people probably won't even cast onto me. And
Right.
that's a liberating experience to say, it's not that I have to become something different than who I am. It's that I have to I have to free myself to just be who I am and to show who I am and to embrace who I am instead of like constantly trying to like pick apart what I'm doing wrong or what I could
Mm.
fixing or should be healing or should be changing. Instead, it's just like, just be like you were saying.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it just be the like the wrongness thing, like right? Like I've worked so much on like, okay, like, well, I need to fix this about myself and I need to like, can I just be happy right now? Like, can we just like enjoy the moment? And I also think that the like pressure to perform in that regard, because we have, I feel like Mama T, right? Like kind of an archetype. And so I'm out in the world. Sometimes I want to be like little baby goddess Tiara and like have someone else like take the reins, right? And it's okay. Like we go through these ebbs and flows. We have like our hermit moments and then we have our like super exuberant, like in everybody's face moments. And that is okay to allow ourselves to have be multifaceted beings and have, different energy levels and all of that. And we don't have to always be on it all the time. And especially like, like I have a theater degree as like an actor. I'm just like, oh, I have to always be like the camera's on all the time. And it's just like, no, I can breathe. I can I can take a nap. I can do whatever it is that feels right in my body and it'll be okay. And 9 times out of 10, nobody really cares.
And that also makes me think about what it's like as a oh man. It also makes me think about I'm losing my thoughts today because I didn't eat food before I got on this episode.
Oh
I'm just
no.
this is everyone's reminder to please go eat a snack.
Mm, yes.
um
And drink
but
water.
yeah, eat a snack, drink water, take good care of yourself. That's like goddess code 101. But there's this energy of like, oh, our cycles, right?
Right.
Like this idea of having to be on all the time is such a masculine idea, right? It's like push, 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 like just keep going. And that's not healthy for men either. That is actively damaging to them, you know? And so
Yes.
inviting ourselves as like people who have like AFAB bodies to understand that we have a flow. Like our process, like we're not meant to be on all the time. Like we are meant to rest, have a whole week of rest, right?
Yes.
Like, and then there's times where we're meant to connect, and there's times where we're meant to go inward. Airplane. And there's times where we're meant to like push and put ourselves out there. But that's part of our like biological nature. And it's part of our cyclical process. You were talking about reminding yourself who you are. And that's really why I wear my moon is because like yeah it's definitely a protection sigil. It's also fabulous. But it also reminds me who the fuck I am, you know? Like when I put this on, I know that I am a facet of divinity and that I am here to show up in the world to create more divinity. And there's no question about that because I've become that. I put that out there and I know that about myself.
Yes.
And it's all about the
I love it. I can't hear it.
okay, good. It's all about the ebb and it's all about the flow and embracing that process of transformation as part of the journey, you know? Like you're supposed to go from fully embodied to almost not like retreating in like a bad way, but to like retreating in like a like a fun way where you go to the woods and hang out with your
Yeah.
friends kind of way.
Like a retreat, like a retreat.
Exactly. Like the retreat I'll be hosting in February.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. I love this conversation. I feel like we've really hit on some powerful, powerful points. Do you feel like there's anything that you want to share with my audience or any messages that are just coming through to you for the collective?
Mm. I mean, the art of being is so, so powerful. So I really encourage you to take a look at like who do you want to be, and know that that person is already within you. Otherwise, you wouldn't want to be them. And just put it into practice of closing that gap, whatever it is that it looks like. If you want to think about the physicals, like, oh, what would a day in the life of this version of myself look like? And do all the little things that you can to make that day in the life happen. And before you know it, you have fully embodied that version of self. And so get
Yeah.
out there and live an extraordinary life.
Live an extraordinary life. Absolutely. That is really, really good advice. One of the things that I like to say is in your most mundane activities, that is where, like, that's like the secret sauce to get your
Yes.
manifestation to come into your life, right? When you're drinking your water, when you're feeding yourself, when you're walking to in between, like, one thing you have to do into the other. And, like, are you showing up as that version of yourself that you want to be? And if you're not, like, how can you make little tiny micro things, right? I'm not saying like throw out your entire wardrobe and become a different person. I'm saying, like, dress the way that you want to dress. Put
Yes.
that effort into yourself and show up as that version of yourself right now as you are, no matter where you are. And by doing that, that's how, like, the embodied goddess does not have to force her way into circles because they want her to be there. People
Mhm.
want you to be there. People love you. People love your energy. They love hanging out with you for who you are. They want to do nice things with and for you because you deserve them and because you're constantly giving back as well. So, allowing yourself the permission and the vulnerability to tangle yourself from all of these conceptions of who you have to be and just giving yourself the permission to show up as who you want to be in those little everyday mundane moments, I promise you will live an extraordinary life.
Oof, powerful.
Oh, I love talking to you. This is definitely not the last time that we will be chatting and hanging out.
Absolutely not.
I'm such a big fan of yours. I really, really love your work and your vibe, and I think that what you're doing is great. And so thank you for coming on my show.
Thank you for having me. I love being in your energy. It is amazing. And we will talk again soon.
Totally. Well, thank you everybody for checking out this episode. If you would like to see more from our channel, make sure that you like and share and subscribe. And I will also have all of the links to Coming Home with Mama T and her personal packages to work with down in the bio, so you can find both of us. Also, if you're interested in working one-on-one with me to step into that embodied goddess energy, right? To rid yourself of these limiting beliefs and just have somebody support you through this process of transformation. I feel the swell of goddesses rising into their power right now. And I just want the world to know that I am here to be of service to that energy. So anything you need, you just hit me up and I'll be there for you. I love you guys so much and we'll talk soon.
Bye.